Thank you so much, Jake. Can everyone hear me okay? I think so. Wonderful. As Jake mentioned, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Mentorcam. I'm a 3-time founder, and I am originally from Norway. Started Mentorcam back in 2020 to give startup founders and entrepreneurs access to mentors that are otherwise, I would say, generally speaking, difficult to access, to help build your businesses, to help you grow professionally and reach your goals. This is a cause that's very near and dear to me personally. When I came to the San Francisco Bay Area from Norway back in 2012 now, I didn't really have a network at all. And through, I think, some effort and mostly luck, I found people that helped me a lot along the way through all these 3 startups, including Mentorcam that I founded. And today we're doing the first edition of the Builder Series. As Jake mentioned, we want to bring the startup and founder ecosystem in Los Angeles together so you can network and meet one another and learn from one another and grow, and also have an opportunity to hear some of the stories from our amazing mentors on the platform. Today we have my friend and one of the most popular mentors on Mentorcam with us today, the co-founder and chairman of Philz Coffee, Jacob Jaber. Welcome, Jake.
Thank you for having me.
So Jacob, it's great having you. Thank you so much. I am really, really excited about what we're going to talk about today. I think I can say that everyone in this room is familiar with your company,
I hope.
Philz Coffee. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that everyone has probably sampled your product.
I'd love feedback.
I'm not sure if everyone knows your backstory, though. So to kick things off, would you mind sharing a quick introduction and background on yourself?
Yes. Real quick, I love what Mentorcam is doing, and this is not a plug or anything. This is honest, because when I started, I knew nothing. And I figured, who's the person I admire the most that can help us get to the next stage? So I figured out the person. I got his name. I said, oh, my God, it would be so amazing to have coffee with this guy. I cold emailed him once, no response. Twice, no response. Third time, he responded, and we had coffee. And it was so lucky. I told him, you need to invest, but first let me make you a cup of coffee. So that happened, and that's how it started. So to your point around, it's not easy to have access to amazing people that can be helpful to you in your journey. You're making that accessible. I think it's very important work. So kudos to you and the team.
Well, kudos to you.
Yeah,
because
thank you.
We're nothing without our mentors.
So I started, both of my parents are from the Middle East, and, typical story, they moved, they didn't have much. My dad started working at a really young age, saved up enough money to open up a bodega in the Mission District in San Francisco when he was 21. So from 15, he moved to the States, and when he was 21, he saved up enough money to open up the store, because that's all he knew. And he didn't know much, but he knew how to treat people. He knew how to connect with people, because the culture he grew up in was all about hospitality, food, coffee. If you think about it, the original social network is not Facebook or MySpace. It's the coffee table where people connect. So he brought that approach to his bodega, and even though he was selling beer and cigarettes and Pampers or diapers and all these things, he knew every customer. It was amazing. So he always wanted to do something with coffee and create a sense of community. So eventually he transitioned that store. It was a very organic process to a coffee shop. I've been in the business since I was roughly 9 years old. And I started by standing on top of milk crates, ringing up people at the register, because I was too short to ring up customers. And if you have an old school immigrant parent, you understand that they only trust their family behind the cash register. So that's how I started. And I will tell you, it was amazing, because people came in from all walks of life. And the Mission District in San Francisco was very tough at that point in time. It was not necessarily described as the safest place to have a business, but I got the chance to meet so many different people, and I figured out how to connect. And if you have respect for everybody, no matter where they come from, you treat them with kindness, you can get very far. So I learned my business skills. I learned how to count inventory. I figured out how to count change back to customers without having to calculate it. There's no Square at that time, no POS systems. And, that's what I did. So as I was going to school, I figured that, man, I don't like this stuff. I wasn't good at school, and I hated school because I felt like I was forced to learn stuff I wasn't interested in from people who weren't that interesting. So I left when I was around 17 years old, and I started working full-time with my dad. And at that point, it was like 80% bodega, 20% coffee shop, because that's the birth of Philz Coffee at that point. So we just worked 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. Slowly, we removed the aisles and took furniture from our house, because we didn't have a lot of money, and put it in the cafe. And it was amazing. My sisters and I would wake up and be like, where the hell is the breakfast table? But it was at the cafe. That's how it worked. And it was amazing because we didn't have to spend anything. And we made people feel like they're, coming to grandma's house. It was homey, for better or worse. And we just slowly grew the business. But for the first few years, it was very difficult, very slow. We didn't open our second store until 5 or 6 years later. So we focused on two things: obsessed about the product quality and the customer experience. And, eventually people told us to open a second, third store, and that's how it happened. It was very organic, but, we rolled up our sleeves. We were baristas, and we went so far, and I'll stop after this because I can keep going. We went so far, at the intersection, there's a red light, and we were slow. So we were like, man, how do we get more customers? We took out samples of coffee, knocked on people's windows on the intersection. There's like, who are you, weirdo? Why are you knocking on my window? We're like, hey, we own the coffee shop right here. We're doing something new. Do you want to try it? So we just did that, and slowly, many, many years. But that's how we did it.
That's amazing. So you clearly have entrepreneurial blood running through your veins, and you got that from an early age. And I'm curious, what inspired you to start Philz Coffee as a brand? What was the inspiration behind going from a bodega, and then the coffee shop started getting probably more traction, it sounds like, to making this into the Philz Coffee brand?
Well, I think the first thing was necessity, because we didn't have anything. And my dad never told me, but there was a lot of struggle in the early days in terms of meeting our mortgage and everything. So this just, there was always, you have to work, you have to earn it. So at first it was really necessity. And as I've gotten older and learned the struggles that my parents were going through, there's no more powerful driver than that, right? So necessity, it's like when COVID happened and there was a crisis. What happened in all of our business work? We all had to be, there's urgency. You have to just focus. This is the only thing that matters. This is what everybody has to do. So it was that type of mentality. So necessity was number one. We have to succeed. Number two, we actually loved what we did, helping people, giving good hospitality, making great coffee. We love that stuff. In terms of processes, systems, we knew none of that stuff. We just knew how to treat people really well, make great coffee. So we did that, and I will say our customers forced us to grow, because we got to the point where we were doing so well that our customers told us to open up a second store, third store, fourth store, and that's kind of how it happened. It was, like I said, very organic.
So you built Philz Coffee out of need and a passion for your customers, it sounds like.
Yes.
I think a lot of founders can relate to that. Just having that passion is really, really key, and that needs component probably lights an extra fire under your feet to get things going. I'm sure. How did you come up with the name and the branding for this?
Well, it wasn't my decision. Philz. So you think, why is there a Z? So my sister came up with the idea of like, hey, Dad, you should add a Z to the end of your name, because it's different. It has a zing to it. It's like, okay. So there was not a lot of thought. A very good skateboarder created our logo, and then ever since we kept at it. And then one day we raised money. It's like, oh, you should get this branding. We had these fancy people come into the office, present, and my dad was like, F that, throw that away, just keep it, don't mess with it. So The name was my dad's name, and my sister told him to add a Z at the end.
Okay. So he listened to his daughter.
Yes.
That helps. I'm sure.
That's the truth.
Yeah. That's how it often goes, right? The name is not often a result of a long, lengthy process where you need some kind of agency to come in and figure the branding and the name out. It just organically happens. Is the Philz brand today what you originally conceptualized, or is it different?
That's a great question. We never thought we never really wanted to grow, like we've grown. But I think as we saw our customers really happy, our employees happy, you grow confidence in yourself when you see success. And that's a blessing and it's a curse at the same time. It's a blessing in that it gives you the energy to want to do more. So our ambitions were like, man, if we can do this in 100 communities, that would be great. So that's the path we went on. I think probably when we hit our 20th store or so, there was a little bit of a crisis in my...
When was that? When did you hit your 20th store? At what point?
20th store was 2015, I think.
And you started it in
2003
yeah.
Is the rough estimate because it was an organic process. So it's 2003. We didn't open our second store until 2008. And then we didn't raise our first round until 2013. And that was 13 stores at that time. And then our 20th store, I think, was 2015, 16, something like that. But the problem was when you're running a business, no one cares like the founder and the owner. When you are the owner of the business, you care the most. It's just the way it is. So the challenge is, how do you develop an environment and hire people who maybe they're not going to care the same way, but they're really going to care? And that was the challenge. That is the one thing we got right. We got so much wrong.
How?
But that was
How did you figure that out?
When you're in the coffee business, you're in the people's business. Because what you're doing is you're dealing with people. And Philz, for us, we looked at every interaction as an opportunity to personalize it. Yeah. It wasn't just like, give me a latte, let me make the latte. It was, hey, how are you doing? What can I get for you? What do you like? It was a conversation and a connection, and we tried to really, how do we personalize it for each customer? So we figured out that what we needed to do is obsess over hiring the right people, 1, 2, train them really well, 3, have a leader they would be inspired to work for so they can keep up the great work and they can develop and grow. So that's what we focused on. And I interviewed every single barista up until 500 employees. And then I stopped because everyone was complaining because it was just obsessive. You have to hire the right people. So then we developed a framework. We figured it out, and we're running. It's working pretty well, I think. It's not perfect.
When did you realize that this is going places? When did you get to the point where you realized, okay, it is working really well. Wow, this is not just an idea, and this can be really big.
I don't think about it like that. I think about it, we have to earn our next store, our next customer. So I don't know if we can be really big, and I don't know if we can be really successful. So far we're doing good, but you have to have the mindset of, I'm going to earn my next customer. And you can, whenever you get money or whenever constraints are removed, there's very high risk of becoming complacent and a loser. You can become a loser when you have resources. You can see it now in the economy these days. Everybody's, there's layoffs, there's all these. It's because you had so much excess, right? So you have to keep this mindset of constraints and figuring out how to do. It's just like the coffee table. The first set of furniture at Philz was from our house. We were resourceful. So when I think about how big Philz can be, I'm thinking about the next customer that walks in tomorrow morning, how they're going to be treated. And if we did a great job, they're going to come back and they're going to tell their friends. And if we keep doing that, that's going to happen more. And if we keep doing that, it's probably likely that the next store we open is going to be successful. And then we just keep doing that. As long as we keep doing that, we'll be fine. It's as simple as that. That's how I think about it.
And then being resource constrained in the beginning actually really helped.
100%. It did help. It doesn't feel good in the moment. Never feels good. Nobody wants to work harder than they need to. But, I think you're forced to think of creative solutions to problems when you don't have all the resources. And so many people it's easy to come up with an excuse, It's easy to come up with excuse. You shouldn't hire people like that who come up with excuses. You should hire people who embrace it. Constraints and problems are an opportunity to figure out how to solve it. If you can solve something with nothing, you're a star. If you need a lot of resources to solve something, you're not a star.
So problems are good because you can solve them.
It's an opportunity to solve them, and you figure out how to do it with nothing. How do you solve something with nothing? That's a great place to start. It's not always possible, but that's a good place to start.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's also a really good segue into something else I wanted to talk about, which I think is something definitely every startup founder can relate to, which are the challenges that you face as a founder and as a company builder. Because every startup, no matter how successful, goes through trials and tribulations, and you're going to have some challenges and you're going to have some problems. Yeah. So if you care to share, what were the biggest challenges that you had, first of all, at the inception or in the beginning, going from 0 to 1? And then later on, when you were at 1, when you had something that you knew people really wanted, going from 1 to 10?
So when we knew we wanted to open our 3rd and 4th and 5th store, I had no idea how to do it. I was like, man, I'm making coffee. I can't travel to every store and make coffee for every customer. So I didn't know how to do it in a high quality way. So I came up with an idea early on, and this was one of the things we got right. And the idea is very simple. I thought about it. I said, okay, what are the hard things I'm going to face in the next 2 years? Okay, now I wrote them down. Who are the people that have gone through this already that can help me? So I went out and I found experts who were 2 or 3 years ahead of me. I wrote down all their mistakes and their learnings, and then that was amazing because you have blind spots when you're doing things for the first time, but when you get someone who can help tell you about their journey, who's been through it, you can reduce mistakes, you can start to see a little bit better. That was the secret to getting to 5 stores, 10 stores, 15 stores. So you just figure out what's the next milestone in your journey and who are the people who have gone through it. You don't need to mimic them or what they say, but you can take a lot of their experience, and it's just like you're driving. When it's foggy, you can't see. They just help bring visibility, right? So that's what we did. That was the secret to figuring out how to scale when I had no experience on how to do it before.
So actually access to folks that had that tangible,
Mentorcam.
practical insight.
Mentorcam.
Yeah, Mentorcam. We have that today, but it didn't exist when you started Philz.
Yeah.
So you had to go out and find these people.
Yeah.
Somehow.
A lot of times they were our customers. I made friends with customers.
Well, that's also a really good point. Talking to customers to getting a sense of what is it that they really want. Can you talk a little bit about that? I'm going off script here, but I'm curious.
No. We were obsessive about our customer experience. So much so that we knew the daughter's birthday and what cupcake she liked. And when she would come in, her father's, before he drops her off to school, he would come in to Philz. We know him. Hey, Jonathan, you want your regular? His daughter comes in. Oh, hey, Katie, how you doing? We knew it was her birthday because he told us, and we wrote it down on a notepad. We turn off the music, and everybody sings happy birthday for Katie, and then we give her her favorite cupcake. These are the things that we did to create that fanatical customer experience. And these are very hard things to scale. I don't think we're as good at them as we were, but this idea of obsessing over your customers and developing a framework of launching, deepening, and restoring. So when a first-timer customer came in, we had to launch that relationship. A successful launch equals the customer came back in 7 days. Great. Now they came back. Now how do we deepen that relationship? How do we get them to come back more often and an ambassador so that they can tell a friend? That's deepening a relationship. Sometimes we had to restore a relationship. What that meant is sometimes we wouldn't see a customer for 35, 40 days. You know how crazy we were? We'd go through our list. We'd email and call them. I would literally call customers like, hey, Barbara, where the hell have you been? It's been like 2 months. Where are you? What's going on? And so, oh, I moved to Florida. You guys don't have a we have an online business. You just learn so much by talking to your customers. So you can never go wrong if you obsess over your customers.
Did anyone tell you to do this, or did you just figure it out on your own?
It's common sense. These are our investors. These are our customers. They're putting food on our table. They're giving our employees jobs. So it's common sense. It has to be real.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's how you learn about your business. That's how you learn about what people actually want. Yep. And that's something they kept telling us through Y Combinator too, is build something that people want. It's not as easy as it sounds like sometimes, but...
And it's okay if not a lot of people want it, as long as there's a good amount of people, there's enough people that love it, it's good enough.
Well, yeah, I mean, and we're talking about coffee, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of people like coffee.
Yeah, the smart people.
The smart people like coffee. But still, it's a very, very competitive space.
It is.
It's a saturated space as well. How confident were you that you were going to succeed building something in this space?
100% confident.
Why?
Because we worked one customer at a time. We believed in what we were doing. We knew, we got one of the beautiful things about retail stores. Everybody's on, digital channels, but that's fine. But the advantage a retail store has is that you get immediate feedback from customers. You get to touch them. You get to see, oh, what's your experience? You get to meet them and engage with them. So our confidence was because we knew everybody was genuinely happy with the experience and that they would go and tell a friend. We even put on our cup, tell a friend, because that's what we wanted people to do. We grew through word of mouth. Our marketing department, 0. It should always be like that, I hope. We'll see.
Still?
No.
No.
That's the truth. You get social media. I always question, is this a distraction or is this really adding incremental value? I don't know the answer to that yet. Sometimes I love the in and out approach. It's like, this is it. We have a few menu items. This is what we do. So I'm sorry, I'm going off a tangent here, but I met an old school Italian deli shop owner who makes one of the best deli sandwiches, and he has like 2 stores, and one day he started closing on Wednesdays, and everybody was like, oh no, our kid, soccer practice, this is our routine. We love getting your deli sandwich. Don't close. His employees were mad because it's one less day a week that they can work. And he said, you know why I'm closing? Because it's my store. I want to close. So there's something about it's okay to do it your way. Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the first time I walked into a Philz. I recently moved to San Francisco, and the concept was entirely new to me. Because I was just getting a cup of coffee and I wanted to get an espresso from my friend. And I walked in and it was different than a Starbucks or a Blue Bottle or a Pete's because you had to wait. It's pour over coffee, you have to wait. And I couldn't get an espresso. It didn't exist. Why not? Why no espresso?
It's a great question. Number one, actually, we had an espresso machine in our first couple of stores. I sucked at it. And probably a majority, 80, 90% of customers wanted what we were doing, the 1 cup at a time. So we were like, this is probably more of a distraction than, it's not helpful. So let's just get rid of it. So that's how it happened. We, whenever you open a new location, there's no lattes, no espresso, WTF, what kind of coffee shop is this? We get that all the time. And then, instead of say we don't have it, we say, I want you to try something, and then we give them a sample, and that's how we did it. So, because everyone's used to latte. What is a latte? If you think about it, everyone's lattes. A latte is espresso. So here's the cup. Espresso, 15-20% of the cup. What is the rest? Milk. Yeah, these days, your plant-based milk. That's what it is. It's milk. You're drinking milk. Starbucks sells the most milk. Maybe oat milk, almond milk now. So we thought to ourselves, people should drink a full cup of coffee, a great cup of coffee, and maybe they can have a little bit of cream, sugar, whatever they want. So anyways, we started thinking about it like that. It's like, what is a latte? Why are people so crazy about these things? And it's like, oh, this is what they like about it. They really like the mouthfeel. They like the milk. They like a little bit, when you think about it that way, then it's like, okay, we can solve that problem.
So at the end of the day, you were really the only one selling actual coffee.
Yeah, not the only one, but our way,
Well,
yes.
You were doing it your way.
We were
without
doing it our
any of
way.
The
Yep.
other stuff
Yep.
around it. And then you
Yep.
realized there were a certain number of customers that actually liked it this way.
Oh, yeah.
And
Or we
turned out
made
that
them like it.
You made them
that
like
way.
it, but
Yeah.
that's how you found product market fit, I think.
That's right, 100%. And once in a great while, we'll get customers who are really adamant about it. But, we just say, hey, try this. This is on us. Don't worry about it. That's the approach we try to take.
So as this market grew and evolved, and there were more coffee houses popping up, whether it was niche or new chains or Starbucks doing a different twist, did you change anything? Did you shift in any way?
No, I think this was great because I'm telling you, our blinders were on our customers. So we put all of our energy on our customers, not our everybody probably has heard this before, but it's real. Like you obsessed on your customers. It's good to be aware of what your competitor's doing. I'd say in the early days we were not. We completely shut that door off. And maybe we missed some learnings in that process, but the benefit was that our customers grew more loyal and loyal to what we were doing because we just put our energy in them. So, in life and in business, you have energy, and you can only allocate so much energy. That's why you have to go to bed, so you can get more energy. So you better use that shit wisely. We put that energy on our customers, and we thought that made the most sense. So I will say, even to this day, we don't spend a lot of time, probably less than on my, even with our investors and our board meetings, like we don't even talk about that stuff.
So you don't worry about competition much, or do you?
Worry may not be the right word. We don't spend a lot of energy on our competition. We're more concerned. Okay, actually, it's important to have an undertone of paranoia as a founder. It's good to be paranoid, like having, what do they call it, productive paranoia? It's really good because you always got to be worried someone's going to eat your lunch, and you got to that's more important, right? So if you have a little bit, let me just keep my eye on what the competition is doing, but innately you're just always a little bit paranoid in a healthy way, and then you're focused on your customers. That's the best balance, I think. It's like slightly aware of the competition, not diluting my energy. 90%'s going to my customers, and then I'm always just a little bit paranoid. That's a good place to be, I think.
So always focus on your customers, a little healthy paranoia about what's going on because you don't want to lose them.
Yep.
You're staying true to yourself. So So clearly you made a lot of good decisions because you grew this from a
lot
small
of bad
coffee
ones
shop
too,
in
but
the back of a bodega, and now you have more than 70 locations. But is there anything at all, if you could go back in time, that you would have done differently?
Probably two things. So when I started running the company, I was like 17 years old. I was actually struggling negotiating with a vendor because he thought I was a barista, and I was like, screw that. So I put the title of CEO on my email address, and my dad was like, yeah, you should do that. So that was when I was a CEO.
That's how you promoted yourself.
Yeah, then he took me seriously. I'm like, So when I was 23, then we started growing, and I hired executives who were like twice my age. I was like 23 there, maybe 45, 50, 47. And I was very, on one end, really like admired them because they had all this experience and expertise they could bring to the table that I didn't have. I was a little fearful because I was like, man, how am I ever going to give this person feedback? I'm too scared. Confrontation's very hard, particularly in that context when you're young and you're managing someone a lot older than you and you don't know anything. But there was a few hires where you just have an itch in your instinct. You guys know when you have kind of an itch in your instinct where you kind of know, maybe you lie to yourself because it's easier and more convenient, but you kind of know it's wrong. You never address it. Oh yeah, I had that. And then you always do it way too late, right? So you always do it way too late. So I did it way too late. That was bad. That slowed us down a lot. And it really damaged the culture a little bit when I held on to people who didn't have respect. So I would say that's one. And then the last thing is when we raised money, we got a little too fancy. Stores started looking a little nicer. My dad and I used to hammer the nails, build it cheap so we could, We didn't have a lot of money to work with. And then you raise money. It's like, oh, let's hire this architect, this designer. All of a sudden, the store has gone from $300,000 to $1 million. It's like, what happened? You know, oh, we raise money, we hire people. So I think it ties back to this idea of constraints and, think big but act small. Everybody's probably heard that, but it's a really good saying. Think big, act small. Not being tough enough on, like, when the construction team would come back and say, hey, we got 3 bids and here are all the prices. You know, part of me was like, I should have said, I should have cursed a little bit and been like, no, go back, make it happen, figure out how to build it for less money.
You know you have money.
Exactly. So these are the problems is you know, and my dad never lost it. I did for a moment. My dad never lost it because he never had it. And then when I started, it's like, oh, wow, you know. So I think you really got to roll up your sleeves, stay true to who you are, you know, not forget where you came from. That's one. And number 2 is to really, when you have an inch in your instinct, you should address it because it's causing more stress in your life than you think, on the personal side especially.
Yeah. Yeah, this is actually a really good segue into the next thing I wanted to talk about, because you already shared that you started from relatively meager beginnings. Didn't have a lot of funding, I imagine, early on, but I'm really curious about your fundraising journey as well, because you've raised quite a bit of capital now at this point. Where did you start from a financing perspective, and when did you start thinking about fundraising from external investors?
So like I said before, we had like 13 stores. Here's the beautiful thing. We started in SF, Silicon Valley. So all of our customers were these founders, entrepreneurs, investors. And then I developed, knowing us, my dad, we knew everybody. So we developed all these relationships. And a couple of them was like, hey, you should raise some money and you guys should take this from 10 or 15 stores to 1,000 stores, go public one day and all. So that all sounded really good. And then we decided to raise some money so we can accelerate growth. Because at our pace, we were only able to open like 1 or 2 stores at a time. But if we got fundraising, we can add more team, we could add infrastructure, we could open more stores. So we did that, and I didn't know how to do it. So we went straight to our Series A because we were bootstrapped. We were doing like 15 million, 20 million in revenue before we even raised money, profitable. We didn't really need to raise money.
But you did it anyway.
We did it anyway.
Because you wanted to expand.
We did it anyway.
Because you got to a point where you actually had a real business.
Yeah, put some gas on the fire, right? So anyways, that's what we did. And one of the customers was Naval Ravikant, who is, he's a guru in this stuff.
The founder of AngelList, for those of you who don't know.
So I developed a friendship with him because he would always come get his coffee. I would make his coffee sometimes. And we would always sit down, chat. And I was like, hey, Naval, I'm doing this Series A thing, but I don't know shit. And he was like, look, we'll do it together. We're going to do the first round together. I was like, please? So that's what happened. He literally did the whole thing for us. He introduced me to we didn't hire anybody. No bankers or anything. He introduced us to the right people. We sat in meetings. We negotiated together. He said, say this, don't say that, the whole thing. He was our legal counsel. He was our investment advisor. He was, all out of love. What a wonderful guy. Thank God, for his help.
That's amazing.
So
that's amazing.
That's how that happened. And then we did our Series A, and great. Then from there, I figured out how to do it. And I learned a lot of the tricks from him. So I figured out how to do the next one and the next one. Anyways, I'm forever grateful to his help.
That is truly getting it from the source.
Yeah. Never go after the best people. Cold email them, cold call them, and don't stop. That is a trick. That's a hack. It works.
Or just go on Mentorcam.
Or go on Mentorcam. Or open a coffee shop, and hopefully they're in your neighborhood.
Hopefully they'll walk in. Make sure you have really good coffee.
Yes. Oh. But that's how that happened. The first round happened.
So did Naval stay involved?
Advisor, no. Yeah, friend. Yeah, not like at a deep level. We'll text every once in a while, but that's about it.
Yeah, but it sounds like he was instrumental to that first round of capital that you raised for
Oh yeah.
for Philz.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah. Otherwise, I didn't know who to turn to. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Did you do subsequent races after that?
We did. So we've done 4 rounds. We've raised a little over 100 million. We have private equity, VCs, and a great team. And we're continuing to grow the brand and try to open more and more stores, but make sure we do it in the right way and keep the quality, keep the culture. So that's what we're doing.
You keep coming back to doing it in the right way.
Yes.
And doing it in a certain way. So what advice would you give to founders raising capital today, maybe raising their first round of capital? What would your 2 cents be on that?
I'm going to answer that question a little differently, then I'll come back to it, because I meet a lot of founders, and I'm an investor.
So you're also a consumer angel investor.
I talk them out of it almost all the time. And they're like, what? It's like almost, and then most of them don't listen. But a few think about it. Anyways, so how did we create new drinks at Philz? When we had an idea, we didn't have an innovation department. We'd go to a store, and I'd grab a few, really good employees, and we'd make coffee together. We're like, oh, I love this. And then we make samples for the customers in the store at the moment. And then we have them try. It's like, hey, what do you think about this? Oh, they love it. So then we expanded to a second store, a third store. It was real-time testing, and you get feedback really quickly. That's how we created a new drink. And I think that's how founders should create a new company. It's the same way. It's just build something and really go test it out with real people. Don't spend too much money, too much resources. Try to be efficient. And then just see if there's something there. Because a lot of people talk about these, I have great technology. It's like, do people want it? Do they love it? Do people want it? For the people that want it, do they love it? And you define love by frequency. They come back and they tell their friends. That's how you define love. And that's a key metric. They come back and they tell others about it. They are an ambassador. So if you have enough loving customers, a good amount, it's a very good sign. If you don't, you probably shut down the idea and move on to the next thing.
So retention and referrals before you start raising.
Yeah, you just need to have real serious love. Because a lot of companies now, what they've done is buy sales. People come up, this LTV metric, I'm so confused about it. Oh, lifetime value. Who in the hell are you to say that this person is going to actually continue to give you money over their life? What do you mean by that? So it's like, I don't want that metric. What is it? What's the profitability on the first visit, the first transaction? To me, that matters more. And then do they come back without you having to pay for it? So don't buy sales. Build something so good that people love. It's okay to buy a little bit of awareness to get you going, because sometimes you need to do that. But once people start trying it, you got to pay very close attention.
How do you measure that? How do you know when
you
people
call them?
Really okay, so
you call them.
Talk
you
to
literally
them
call
personally.
Them. Yeah, you're like, hey, I'm Jacob. I'm the founder of XYZ. I just learned you use my product. Thank you so much. I'd love to learn your feedback. You're our first customer. Thank you so much.
You can't outsource that. You can't have someone else do those calls. Correct?
If you need to hire people to do that, you should not be a founder in the early days. You got to do that. You got to wear all the hats. And if you're not built for that, that's okay. You shouldn't be a fake founder. You should be a real founder. So if you want to do that, you should
do the hard stuff, do the dirty work.
Yeah. And trust me, I didn't love everything I had to do, but you love a majority of it. You just keep going, So it's so easy to talk yourself out of stuff. So hire people, Don't hire anyone. You do it. You do it all. You don't need people to tell you if people are going to love this So keep it tight. Don't spend money. Don't fundraise if you don't absolutely have to. There are scenarios and industries where that's required. But, in consumer, that's why I talk all the founders out of fundraising. But again, they don't listen.
But you're also an investor. So
it's against my own incentive. But I tell them that because I was a founder myself. And if I was in their shoes, I'd be like, it's also not responsible to take someone's money when you're not so sure. This idea of pre-seed, seed, I'm confused about that. What does that even mean? What does pre-seed mean?
Do you have any investors in the room?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm taking my I'm not saying it's bad if you're raising a pre-seed, but the first time you raise money is the time you should say, I have 15 or 20 or 30 customers that freaking love this thing and they just want more of it. That's probably a good time to start. If you need it. If you don't need it, don't do it. Raising advice is more important than raising money in the early days. This is an unpopular opinion, but raising advice is more important than raising money.
I believe that. I believe that.
In the early days.
So you think it's a good thing?
Another plug for Mentorcam.
Do you think it's a good thing today that the market perhaps has shifted a bit in terms of fundraising? And I'm thinking about this with the lens of the innovation that we'll see and the startups that we'll see grow and actually have and the founders that we'll see have their ideas come to fruition, because access to capital will be harder.
Yep. Well, I think sometimes you got to let out the shit.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening, right? It's like we've been in a very luxurious environment for the past 10, 12 years, and, now we're not. It's probably a good thing because, at the end of the day, quality wins in life. At the end of the day, it's all about quality. Quality never goes out of fashion. So if you have something that's not quality and you can't make it quality, it's very vulnerable. It's not going to last. If you have something of good quality, it's likely going to last. It's like when you buy a little nice wallet, right? You spend an extra $500, $600 on it. It's like, wow, it's so expensive. But that shit lasts. It's the same thing. So if you have good quality, it's probably going to last. And if you don't, it's not. So what you're seeing in the marketplace now is perhaps maybe it's, so there's a chance where there's high quality potential but bad execution. So there are companies out there that had high quality potential but just poor execution. And then there are companies who just had mediocre quality who got away with it. Yeah, that's probably what's happening. So I think you flush the system and you just, you keep going. It's probably going to happen again in 15 years.
Probably.
Yeah.
Quality wins.
Quality will win. Over time, it's never... The better question of what's going to be the future, everyone's like putting AI in their decks now. Like, are you AI? What are you doing? Well, food companies.
Investors like it. Why not?
Well,
investors love it.
There's a lot of investors who are going to get flushed away too, because there's so many investors who should not be investors. It's really interesting. But back to my point, and the question I like to think about is not what's going to change in the next 10 or 20 years. What's not going to change? What's not going to change is people are still going to like really great deli sandwiches or a cup of coffee, right? Or a nice pair of clothing, right? What's not going to change? Quality is never going to go out of fashion. So if you do something that's really good, it's probably going to continue to be really good.
Yeah, and stay really good at it.
Stay really good and be paranoid that you might not be really good over time if you don't stay on top of it.
Are you still paranoid? Do you have a little bit of that founder paranoia still, or does it go away?
No. It's a problem. It's not good. Yeah, you get this OCD. Someone's like, oh, so the team would get very frustrated. It's like, oh, we've already solved that. It's like, are you sure?
Yeah.
But it's good. I rather be like that. It's you suffer. It's a little suffering.
Well, obviously you've had a great deal of success at this point. You've been going at it for a while, and you're seeing this company really grow.
Yep.
What really motivates you these days?
Well, I thought about something recently, and I was thinking, what's the purpose of life? And I think that
Wait for it.
Okay. I'm not trying to get all philosophical, but I think about this stuff. No, coffee's one. But if you think about it, I can't figure out an inherent, I can't come up with an answer. So you have to come up with an answer. Everybody has to come up with their own answer of you have to find meaning in your life. So that's what you got to do. You got to figure out what what excites you. And then I figured recently I made two columns, what eats my energy and what gives me energy. And I've learned to figure out how do you spend less less time with people and things that eat your energy. Let me do less of that, and more time on things and people who give you energy. More of that. So, every couple of months, I'm trying to put a little bit more, spend a little bit more energy on the stuff that gives me energy. So you ever talk to someone who just eats your energy and you're just like, oh, it didn't feel good? Just avoid those people.
Ghost,
Just avoid them.
Avoid them.
You could be nice. You should always be kind. You should always open the door for people, even if you don't like them, because it's a waste of energy to be unkind, to not be kind. But my point is, just avoid that stuff. Stuff that gives you energy. So I started paying a lot more attention to how I feel after a meeting, a product review, a founder meeting, my visit to a shop, whatever it is. You just pay more attention. You're more aware of how you feel after interacting with people and things. And then at the end of it, you got a good sense of, I feel my cup feel full. I feel full. It feels good. Or it's like, I don't feel good. And then you figure, that was the thing that kind of, it didn't make me feel good. If I do less of that, I'm probably going to be happier. So I think that's it. Because inherently, being a human is suffering. Life is not easy, right? So you have to find meaning, and you have to try to spend more time on things that give you energy.
Yeah, and you have to recognize those patterns, I'm sure, what it really is.
You have to recognize those patterns, yeah.
And that's hard as a founder. It's really, really tough to find that balance. I'm also really curious, how do you find that balance? And what will you tell founders that are maybe heads down in their business, in their company, to do? Like, how do you find that sort of that peacefulness while it's just burning really hot on the stove and you have to be there because the kitchen's on fire?
Well, the truth is, you probably shouldn't have balance. If you're a founder in your 20s, you should just be working all the time. It's probably the right answer. There's trade-offs. To be great, you have to have a trade-off. But as you get older, you get in your 30s, your 40s, you figure out how to balance life a little bit better, I think. So I would say it's okay if you're not totally balanced, if you're in your 20s and you're a founder of a company. Try to find moments of rejuvenation, refill your cup. But I struggled with that big time. I had no college. I dropped out. So no college, no partying, none of that stuff.
You catch up on that ever?
Once in a while. But not enough. But maybe in my late 20s, I start, a little bit more. But no. That's it. I got to wake up. Focus. That's what it takes. That
is very, very well said. And I'm sure you give this advice to a lot of the mentees and the members that you mentor on Mentorcam. You've been with us as a mentor now for over 6 months, and you're one of the most popular mentors on the platform. Would you mind sharing a little bit about, how do you work with founders at an early stage? What does that look like?
So the first thing is I really want to understand the person and what they're doing, and then I figure out if I have any value to add. Because every conversation is a unique conversation, and I want to understand. I want to be a really good listener. So probably for like half of the first time, I'm listening, focusing, who are they? And my feedback is always holistic in that I'm not always focused on the feedback on their product or their business. Sometimes like, I want to find product market fit. I want to figure out how to fundraise. Give me feedback on that. I try to get everything so I have a holistic picture of this person and what they're trying to do, and then I give feedback from that perspective, because I think it's really important to have, because some entrepreneurs came for advice for product market fit, and they left with it's a completely different conversation after, and it very much tackled product market fit, but it was different. So it's just everybody's different. You got to be a good listener. You got to understand where people are coming from, and then you just try to give them good, honest advice. And this is things that give me energy, trying to help founders, because I got that help. So it's also like, I'm able to help, help people, and it makes me feel good. It makes them feel good. That's a good thing.
Yeah,
it's great.
Exciting. It's exciting.
Very
right?
exciting, 100%. And I learned so much at the end of it.
Yeah, I would second that too. That these conversations with founders are very, very high energy, and I get a lot of takeaways from them as well. I do have one burning question that I really want to know. I'm sure a lot of people here also are wondering. When you go to Philz Coffee, what do you get?
Well, I have about 4 cups a day.
All Philz, always Philz.
Oh yeah, there's no question. It's not like if I'm 100 miles away or far from Philz and I really want a coffee, there's pretty good options out there, so that's cool. But you're settling. You don't want to settle for life, so you want to get good stuff. So at Philz, there's 2 things I get. For hot, I get a Tesora with honey and cream. It's delicious. It's absolutely fantastic. You become happier when you take a sip. You feel energized. It feels really good. It's really good. So you can adjust your sweetness levels. And then in the afternoons, I get the Filtered Soul cold brew with oat milk and sugar. Mind-blowing. You need to have one. It's really good. So those are the 2 I get, and I have about 4 a day, 2 of the Tesora, then 2 of the Filtered Soul. Yeah, everybody should be drinking it.
Perfect. 4 a day. And everyone should do it.
Yeah, and what's beautiful is I sleep so well. Yeah, because like, what keeps you up at night? Nothing. I sleep great.
Well, you heard it from the man himself. I'm took a mental note of that. That's definitely what I'm getting next time.
Yeah, we'll go. I will make you a cup when we go. We'll charge you double,
okay.
but we'll make you a cup.
Okay. Definitely want to make it happen. But Jacob, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down here and share your story and chat with me, and also to elaborate a little bit about your journey and you know what that was like for you. So really, really appreciate that. And thank you all for coming out. We will send out an email after the event with a little special surprise for everyone. But really, really grateful to have you all here at the first of hopefully many Builder Series. And Jacob here is a mentor on Mentorcam, so you can connect with him now, but he doesn't disappear. He'll stay on Mentorcam. I hope.
Thank you.